And here we go. Welcome back to the Good Performance Podcast, GPP. I'm joined here with Brandon Jetter and Troy Shallow of Good Performance. How you guys doing today? We have a great show for you and a lot of exciting topics to cover.
Yeah, Coach. Funny thing about that, it's called the Good Performance Podcast, GPP, but that also stands for General Physical Preparedness, right? We're getting our athletes ready to go. Yes, we are. Physical preparation specialists.
Right, you are, Coach. That
Yes,
actually
sir.
ties into exactly what we do here at Good Performance. The CPPS certification also pertains to GPP. Yeah, that's right. We pride ourselves on being disciples of Joe DeFranco and Jim Smith's method of teaching, and it seems to work really well. We take our own spin on things, but yeah, welcome to the GPP, Good Performance Podcast. Otto Zaccardo, Troy Shallow, Brandon Jetter. So let's get started, shall we?
I think we should, yeah.
All right. We're not going to keep that going, but
that was excellent.
That was a pretty good intro.
Yeah, that felt almost scripted.
No, that's just off the dome. We should show some of your...
That's what we do. You should see our videos of our old guy faces.
We'll release those soon. Boomer takes. Those are good. So the question, we can just start off with it because I said we should start recording when I wanted to pose this question. Topic that I was curious on your guys' opinion was periodization and how it kind of pertains to with the athletes that we tend to work with, and you too, Brandon, like when you coach, you only get so much of an off season before athletes are into another, sporting season. So their training looks generally the same, and you don't get the luxury of having long drawn out cycles of building strength, like acclimation phases, and then getting into like peaking for a specific event when we're training generalities. Because most people just want to know overall training, like how do I train? What should I be focused on? I have a month and a half, maybe 2 months between my seasons. I play different sports. How do you get the best training, cover all your bases? And this will probably go into one of Troy's big things is lifting in season, training in season, and maintaining. But that was a topic that I was thinking about that I don't really hear covered that much, and I thought it would be an interesting one to discuss because you don't usually have those really long time lengths to work into it. So I can go, Troy can speak, and then Brandon can speak more because I kind of know how you do it, Troy. But for our listeners, I'm sure they're very curious as to how we get guys so strong in such a short period of time, and how does progress continue through those different seasons, off seasons, and then, years of progress while still maintaining the ebbs and flows of season injury, speak on that. I think our viewers and listeners would be really curious to hear, how we do that.
How do we do that? Say you get a kid for a month and a half, which often happens. You want to, we want to make sure we are getting them stronger. We want to make sure they're leaving us better than when they came in. If it's only 2 weeks, if it's 4 weeks, if it's 6 weeks, whatever it is, we want to pick things that we can progress. And it's something like Otto always says too, is like, how bad is this person at, I don't know, a pistol squat? We can improve their pistol squat, and I bet you Coach Otto could coach it up and improve it in 2 days. And that, things that you pick things that you can improve and show them how to move correctly. I guess if we have 4 weeks with a kid, you could go, I typically will give them eccentric loading and hold isometrics in certain positions so that we're building in proper, correct positions. Like simple as holding a split squat or loading up a bar on your back. I've been doing this with some kids lately, is loading up a bar on your back and getting down to a half squat and holding that half squat for like 20 to 30 seconds. And that's absolutely brutal, but that's going to build, recruit way more, muscle fiber motor units to get moving and build muscle faster, I guess, in a way that you could call it. There is really no way to build muscle fast because that's not how strength training works. It's not a 3-month thing. It's a years compiled over years, continuous training. But yeah, we have a short amount of time at kids. I'm going to eccentric load them. I'm going to put them in various positions and make them hold those positions so that when we get back to our, concentric basic movements, they're going to be significantly stronger and move significantly better. That's, I think, the main thing we do. And like I also said at the beginning of that, is picking movements that we can improve that will help get them stronger, that they're bad at. Like a pistol squat's a great example. Like not many people can do a pistol squat. So improve that. That's going to make you stronger. That's going to improve your balance. It's going to make your single leg stronger. Like that's great movement for you. Okay, let's improve that. You only got 3 weeks with us. We can improve that in 3 weeks. Like stuff like that.
Yeah. You mentioned the pistol squat. And then another one that came to mind was what we do a lot with the Nordic hamstring curl, because it's that's such an incredible exercise. All these elite athletes can do it. Okay, so you already have kind of an incentive because athletes want to be able to do that. And then we kind of that's a good example. Same with the pistol squat. Difficult movements are good examples in a short period of time to teach athletes, all right, we're going to start you elevated, holding, PVC pipes to balance, or have 3 or 4 pads to go off of. And with that single movement, we teach them proper breathing, because if you're trying to do a Nordic curl and your breathing's all jacked up, your ribs aren't down, you're not breathing through your diaphragm, it becomes way harder. So all of a sudden they see a huge progress in a really short amount of time just by fixing their breathing and just by going through a regression and saying like, wow, Troy and Otto got me to do almost a full Nordic curl in like 2 weeks, whereas they might not have been so weak that they could have already done it maybe before, but they didn't know how to do the movement. And that cements breathing and regressions into that athlete. So when we get them next time, there's not that question of, should I be doing this? Should I be doing this? No, you get used to how it works. Like we bring you really far back with a regression. Like just do this. Like Troy said, you puts guys in quarter squats, half squats, just hold it. Time under tension, get the stimulus, like you're going to pass through that. I guess it's almost like a micro progression, but yeah, I always think that those are really valuable, those almost novel exercises that we end up using to teach guys a lot of other things, because no one really wants to be taught breathing when they're back squatting. I know how to squat. Like, really? You're going to tell me like all these little positions for a squat or a bench? It's like, no, I'll use some other crazy exercise that you have no idea how to do to teach it to you. But then if you carry it over to your compound lifts, it's going to make them way more useful and more effective. I'd be curious to see what your thoughts are on this, Brennan, from a sprinter's perspective, because that's kind of a whole different kettle of fish. I don't know if you can kind of afford that, but yeah, go speak on that, what your thoughts are. I'd be curious to hear it.
Yeah, full disclosure, haven't been doing this nearly as long as you.
Yeah, but you've been training as an athlete.
I've observed it, and I've kind of implemented the things that I've seen and experienced. Even in the short time that I have been doing it, as far as a speed approach, it's actually, I don't find it radically different between the football players that I have come out that want to get faster and the track athletes that I coach. Given that a lot of track athletes are at the high school level, a lot of their gen prep work is hit by the fact that the school that I coach at, unlike I think a lot of other larger schools in California, kids still do multiple sports. So they're coming in and their gen prep is pretty much, I think, covered by the fact that a lot of them are doing 3 sports, especially if they're juniors or below. A lot of them are doing football in the fall, they're doing wrestling or basketball in the winter, and then they're coming out. So at that point, you're pretty much just hitting a conjugate kind of periodization. First 4 weeks, yeah, you might add in a little bit more tempo, a little bit more conditioning, but you're still going to hit speed work at least once or twice a week, preferably 1 day acceleration if you have the resources, resisted training or resisted sprinting paired with unresisted sprinting. And then you have 1 day of max velo, time everything so you know what works so you can track fatigue. Younger athletes, obviously, as you guys have pointed out, they recover a lot quicker neurologically than older athletes. So, when they're 15, 16, you can usually get a little bit more out of them. So yeah, for high school track athletes, most of them are having their gen prep work covered by the fact that they're doing multiple sports. And I encourage them to do, especially at a place where I coach at, where there's not a lot of access to resources, or maybe they might not be able to afford, very intricate off-season training. I encourage them to do multiple sports. They're still building a lot of the traits that they will, need in something, even in something as pure as track and field. As far as football players, somewhat similar approach, I think. I've worked with, a handful of older high school football players, junior college football players. It's a little bit different. The only difference is, since they're not doing multiple sports, the periodization is a little bit more drawn out. Still the same concept, still conjugate, still have them hit, especially with football, have them hit a lot of sprint work year round. Only difference is I do incorporate tempo running, definitely on the lower intensity days, and occasionally conditioning. Reason for that, obviously, just building a workload capacity. There's other traits that you get from that too, like building ankle stiffness and elasticity, that I think you can get from, sub maximal training. And with them, honestly, with a lot of football players, especially if they're in high school or junior college, there's a lot of low hanging fruit for speed work. A lot of them have never been in a speed program, especially if they didn't run track in high school or they had a incompetent track coach in high school, which there were a lot of. There's a lot of them that just run them into the ground and they're not actually getting any speed work. So a lot of them very low hanging fruit, and probably somewhat similar to what you might see with some of the guys who do pro day prep. If they didn't have the best strength and conditioning programs in college, there's just so much. A lot of them straight up don't know how to sprint. You can literally get something new out of them each day, just teaching them A skips, teaching them A switches, teaching them any sort of drills. A lot of football skill position players, in my experience, very inflexible. You can get a lot literally out of hurdle walkovers, out of isometrics. But yeah, for either sport, I think conjugate programming, I think that's really kind of covers the bases for me.
I think, in terms of, you have a short amount of time with someone and fucking Saratoga water, a walking meme, Brandon Jetter. Nice. I think, and I hear Otto yell at people for this all the time. In particular, one person that gets it all the time. And it's your supplementals, your accessories are the most important. Like, oh, yeah, nice, you did your 4x6 on bench. Okay, but like, you progress your bench a little bit, 5 pounds, but are you gonna increase all your accessories? Are you going to increase your supplemental work every week? Okay, yeah, it's just curls, it doesn't matter. Okay, you did 30s for 15 reps last week. Why don't you do the 35? Like, that stuff does matter, and that getting on top of that and actually progressing your supplemental work will increase your, overall strength faster in a faster period of time.
I think that's actually a good point, because I think what we run into a lot is, how do guys get so strong so fast? Like, how does that work? Well, it's not just programming like standard rep schemes. Yeah, their squat is going up by this crazy number, but it's not because they're just here. We have no magic weights. We have no magic coaching. We just are attentive to, like Troy said, okay, you have your squat. You do your slow time under tension squat, but then you also have split squats as an accessory. You also have glute bridge holds as an accessory.
Bulgarians.
Everything that you have an accessory
Goblet
that's building your
squats.
lower body strength. That's one thing that I think maybe other people don't do it as much, but Troy and I are pretty on guys with like, hey, is that more than you did last week? Like, are you moving that up? Like, because then and I think that's something that maybe younger athletes should, if you're a younger athlete listening or watching, progress the other boring shit.
Right.
If you want to make huge jumps in your squat, well, on your split squats and lunges, like, do more. It's not enough to just go up 5 pounds and squat. All right, add a few more reps of plyometrics. If your body can handle it, if you can handle that increased work capacity, like, do it. You're curling 20s. All right, I have this same workout that I'm doing curls. Okay, well, you still need strong biceps. It's not just a purely aesthetic exercise. Like, curl the 25s, then the 30s, then the 35s, then the 40s, and all of a sudden, it's a lot easier to row things. Oh, that's helping your rowing movements, your pulling movements. Oh, what do we know about pulling movements? That makes your shoulders and all of your pushing movements way stronger. That makes your back way stronger. Your sprint capacity improves because your back is way stronger. So yeah, there are no little things. And it's something as simple as the mindset and the idea of like, all right, this is a calf raise, but I'm going to progress this calf raise, and I'm going to keep progressing this calf raise until my ankle stiffness is maxed out. Like, max out every single attribute you can train, especially while you're young, because you have the best time to train. You can see the difference between guys that were absolute workhorses in high school, and now they're in their mid to late 20s, and all of a sudden they're animals because now they've figured out how to train. They progressed all their stuff while they could have that accelerated period of growth in their adolescence. And now you can focus on, no, this is what I'm working on. I have this body of knowledge and experience in doing this. So yeah, progressing little things, I think, especially when you have a short period of time for off-season training, is really progress that supplemental work, like Troy said. And we see it all the time. Like, it's pretty easy to see. We don't even need to check now, like go back into our programming to see like who's progressing it. If somebody added 10 pounds in their squat, and then we have, 3 other guys adding 30 pounds to their squat and jumping 5 inches higher, like Troy and I don't even need to look. We already know that the guys that are improving are 100% improving their accessories. Like, all their numbers are going up. Whereas someone with that has a solid improvement, we shoot for like 10% progress in a 10-week block. Like, that's awesome. 1%. Sure. But if you hit that, we know, all right, you're probably kind of not putting in that effort across the board, because especially with this age group, if you put in the same effort you do in your compound list with all your supplemental work, then you smash through that 10 to 20% increase in those 10-week strength blocks, or even 6-week strength blocks. Like, it really accelerates the process. So yeah, do the little things. I had a coach tell me there are no little things, and that's pretty damn true, especially when it comes to training. And the older you get and the further you take sports, the little things become more and more and more important. So start early, do them now. What's another topic? I think we should just go on different topics.
Yeah, I have
what ones did we cover?
Yeah, we have a couple of good ones over here. Like, do you have a set of standards that you aim for with your athletes? That's what people ask. Like, what's the standard for like the guys at your gym? Like, what do they need to get to? Everybody is different. Every single person is different. Every single athlete that comes into the gym is slightly different in some way. They are not all made the same. So what is good for someone like Chase's, like what Chase should get to, Chase, my younger brother, what he should get to, like what we know. Okay, Chase, if you can get back to benching over 400 and squatting 550 plus, like that's standard for you. That's like where you're at. That's how you know, like you're in good strength now. Like you feel good. That's a good spot for you. But like, that's not the same for a high school kid who's in there. And it's like, hey man, like if you don't get to a 315 bench, or if you don't get to a 405 bench, like Chase, like you're screwed. Like, no, that's not. If you're a lineman and you're not benching 405, it's like, oh, you're not hitting the standard that we set, you're going to suck on the field. Like, no. Jumped up 25 pounds. Yeah, I think that the questions with regards to standards across athletes, it's like the standard is your absolute upper threshold of what you can handle. Yeah. Like, don't like what we do with pro day guys, or even just guys that come back for summer training and winter training when they have a longer period to go over. Set some goal. Like we always tell guys when they write down their 3 athletic or physical goals to hit, set crazy goals. Like set a goal that's so high that if you miss it, you'll be okay with the progress, but something that if you hit is like, oh my goodness, that is like, holy shit, I couldn't dream of that. I couldn't dream of adding 7 inches to my vertical jump in a training block. Well, set that to the goal. You might hit it. You might get 5 or 6 in 5 or 6 weeks. And yeah, you failed miserably at hitting 7 or 8 inch improvement, but hey, that's pretty damn good. So yeah. I don't know, for standards across athletes, it's be as good as you possibly can. So focus less on where they're at, where they end, and more on like the methodology of what are they doing? Are they exhausting all of their options to get there? And then the numbers take care of themselves. Like if you dial in taking care of your body, sleeping, eating, then you're going to hit numbers. We won't let you not hit numbers. There's objectivity with your numbers. Like, hey, I'm trying really hard. Like I added 25 pounds on my bench. I'm benching 185 now. We would look at you and say, oh, that's awesome. Don't feel good about that. You're still like not strong, but that's really good. It's a 25 pound bench PR. Like, congratulations. That's good. But then like keep chipping away, keep hammering it. And then like Troy said, some guys will get to the point where, like no one comes to mind. No one never needs to bench 405, slot receiver, returner. He never needs to bench 405. So then also understanding when progress starts to slow down in one area, keeping that the same, and then maybe switching. All right, well, you can never be too fast, so let's have them move weight and have them more focus on velocity-based training. We'll still get load, so they're lifting heavy weights, but now they're moving it fast and getting more reps moving fast. And now let's focus on a little bit more of a unique approach that kind of targets what this athlete sucks at. Because an easy trap to fall into, I know Troy and I both probably fell into this at various stages, is just grinding for that heavy
XYZ number. Like, I need to hit this on squat. Well, it's not necessarily going to result in being better. Like, it's awesome to have that drive and really be pushing, but let's remember that if you're an athlete, if you're a track athlete, if you're a football player, if you're any type of competitive athlete, striving for that specific number doesn't always, if you spend too much time for a specific number, it doesn't always equate to success in the sport. And I know that I definitely chased numbers a little bit more ambitiously than I needed to.
Yeah. There was a on the topic of strong enough, or Nolan, like you said, doesn't need to bench 405. He doesn't need to. There's no point in improve. He already benches 315. I think he did 315 for 3 this summer. He's a slot receiver. Like 225 for 20 plus reps. Like we don't need to improve his bench anymore. So there was like a study done by Cam Joss, who is the Auburn strength coach, and he's like, for skill guys, once they're like 1.7 at body weight and their lifts, like power work. That's it. Power work. Like, you don't need, what's the point? Like, they need to put on more muscle tissue? Like, no, like, their skill guys need to be fast. All power work. Power work will keep their strength up, stuff like that. So, but then when talking about the standard, there's a standard. Let me rephrase that. The standard in the weight room is different for every kid, but is there a standard for, hey, you should be at this to, run track in college? Hey, you should be at this to do this. Like, what? Yeah. How do we feel about those standards, you could call it?
If you're a GPC athlete, you should aim to get above 20 or above on bench if you've been training with us for a while. I don't really care what skill you are. For reps of 225, you should be able to squat 405 comfortably for reps. Like, that's pretty standard. Your 10-yard dash, 10-yard, like your sprint, your acceleration, I don't know, sub 1.6 for skill guys. That should be like a standard goal. You can never be too fast, so if you can get faster, awesome. We'll work with you and implement strategies to do that. But sub 1.6 for skill guys, sub 1.9. Well, it depends. In between
depends
guys
on
should
the
be
big guys. Like,
if you're a hybrid, sub 1.7. And this is laser start, laser stop. Yeah. Not hand time start, not real iPhone shit. Times, not hand time start, laser stop. Laser start, laser stop. No box to start in. You're starting exactly where the laser
right up on the lasers.
Yeah. Like, maybe give yourself a couple inches so you can like lean forward and kind of load everything so you can fire out and you're not in an awkward stance, so you get an abnormally slow time because you're like, oh, I have to be perfect, but you're out of the correct angles. And yeah, big guys should be sub 2, sub 1.9. In between guys should be sub 1.75, depending on how big or how fast you need to be. Like a 6'1 DN needs to be a lot faster than a 6'5 DN. It's great if that guy gets fast, but sometimes you can play on your natural strengths if you're repping out 405 and you're 6'4. It'd be sick to get you to a 1.6 something 10-yard, but you'll probably be pretty successful even if you're running a 1.7.
Do you have standards for a 10-yard fly that you look for?
Yeah, 1.0 or sub 1. If you're a fast guy, you need to run sub 1 in your 10-yard fly.
I like all the
20
mids.
or 30.
We were doing 20 build this summer, and then we switched over to a 30 build for some of it just for training purposes, and then went back.
So they're running longer.
Yeah,
right.
But even I like the mids. Like, anything under 102 is 20 miles an hour. So if we can get our mids to 102, like Mason Baldick was like 103 this summer. And it's like, oh, dude, like that's a 255, 260 pound defensive end. And it's like, dude, like you are running 19.8 miles an hour. Like, you're almost running 20 miles an hour. Like, that's sick. Like, that's awesome. Right. So like that, for the mids, definitely, 102 is a great goal standard. And for the skill, like, no one's going to beat Otto's flying 10 that we had this summer. I think it was an 8.7 maybe. 0.87, 0.89. Jason Smith ran one and was like, yeah, ain't no one beating that today. And it was like 9.2, and Otto goes, okay, and steps up, boom, ran like 8.9 or 8.7 or something.
Yeah, but I had a little longer build up because we were on the soccer field, so I don't think we measured it out properly. I don't know.
But all skill guys should be running in the 9s, in the 09s.
Yeah, I think once you get guys to 1 something, that's like, you have the capacity to be a fast guy, especially when you get it, especially when they're like 19 years old or 20 years old, and you can run 1.0. If you can hit that top speed, like, that's fast enough that don't listen to, like, say your 40 sucks. Say you can hit a 1.0, but you're running like a 4.9 or a 5-second 40-yard. Well, that's not an issue with how fast you are. That's an issue with prepping for that test. You don't have enough time prepping for that test because you have the ability to be that fast. You just have no idea what you're doing. So I think it's important to find people that do know what they're doing because you got to learn.
From what I've seen and haven't worked with any mids or bigs, just skill position, usually offensive skill position players, and seen a lot of very elite ones train. Barrier to entry, I tend to see on a 10-yard. For them to have the potential to get really fast, I would say fully laser about 1.64, 1.63 tends to be like on their first few times out there.
Start 10-yard excel.
10-yard start.
Yeah.
And I've seen that across, not just for football skill position players, but also for soccer players, for lacrosse players. 10-yard fly, same exact thing, sub 1. I have a kid now. He had JUCO running back. I think he said his best 40 time was a 4.6 hand time, so probably like a 4.75 laser. I brought him out, took him to a shitty ass grass field, had him do flies, went 0.99, 0.97, 0.99. I told him straight up, like, yeah, you can be fast. And like, even he didn't believe it. And I was like, well, you're running this, with zero sprint training, 20-yard build on terrible grass. I pushed him out to a 30-yard build the second session just out of curiosity, see what it would look like with someone without sprint, capacity. Ran slower, I think straight 0.9s, maybe even a 1.00.
Oh, that's surprising.
Goes back to what you say, though. Just shows that they haven't been coaching it. But yeah, I agree. I think in my experience, for skill position players, just general field sport athletes, lacrosse, soccer, 1.65, 10-yard excel, somewhere around there, 1.00 sub 10-yard, or sub 10-yard fly. Obviously, depends on body weight because offense, the football skill position players are usually going to be around 200 to 215. Some lacrosse players might be up there. Soccer players, a lot lighter, so you do want to, I think, see a little bit more speed out of them. But yeah, I agree. And then when it comes to track athletes, 10 yards is not something we normally use. The coach I work with now came from a football background, so he does use it. I will just say it's very interesting to see the difference. I honestly throw out the data. It's just so much faster with the track athletes. One, because their sport is just running fast. Two, the builds are we usually do larger builds. They're on a track surface as opposed to turf or grass. I think I'm actually curious. I want to get your guys' opinion on this turf versus grass. Are you guys seeing obviously grass is a huge variable depending on the type of grass and the conditions, but what are you guys usually seeing in terms of variables?
So we almost always do turf.
Yeah.
Just because that's what they play on. That's football. That's what they'll be tested on. Two things that I've talked to Troy about that I think we want to look at this summer. One would be, we can test out what track is. I'll probably do it on turf and track surface, spikes and cleats. I'm going to guess that you can run way faster in spikes on a track surface than
absolutely.
On turf. I don't think it's close.
We see guys who aren't crazy fast. Let's say an 11, high school sprinter running 11 flat, 11.1. You put them on a track surface. I've seen them run, I'm trying to think. The fastest I've seen this year is a 0.87 from an 11 flat guy, but it's on a track surface. I don't know what he'd run on turf, probably significantly slower. And it was a larger build. It was a 40 build. So his 30 build is probably a little bit slower, but the track, night and day. My personal opinion, Otto, and I texted you about this, is I 100% believe in training them on the surface that they compete on. So unless I absolutely am limited by facility access, I'm going to put the football players on turf. I'm going to put the track athletes on a track surface. I do like to occasionally put football players on track surface just because they can reach it, especially if we're doing a max velo day. If they're ready for it, if their tendons are ready for it, I do actually occasionally like putting them on the track because they will typically hit a much higher max top speed, but that's something that's more of a touchy subject, and it kind of depends on where they're at in training.
For some of our change of direction and acceleration work, I like to go to the grass with some of those guys because they are putting there is less strain on the ligaments and the tendons and the joints when you're on grass. Like, it's a much more forgiving. And if we have guys for 3 or 4 months and they're training 6 days a week, just switching, say we train Monday, Tuesday in the weight room, Wednesday we're on grass for our sprint work, excel work, and change of direction work. Just that, I feel like, helps take off a significant load and helps their joints a little better. That's what we did last year. And I think they liked it. I got good feedback from some guys that they actually liked that the grass field that we were using, they loved, and they felt they weren't as sore towards the end of the week and so forth.
Yeah, especially I think that was
The
definitely
bigger
a good
guys
call.
too.
Yeah, a good call last summer because we're training so much. Any opportunity we can get to like limit that kind of impact on them, it's good. Plus, then you're kind of mentally, if you're doing change of direction mark, you're like, oh, this is where I'm at. This is where I'm accelerating, because we did a lot of our 10-yard excels on grass initially. After we took like baselines on turf, we'll just go to grass because it's a slower surface. So if mentally you're like, I'm running this, you're going to push a little harder. You're going to be a little more attentive to coaching because you want to get to that number. And then you go back to turf and it's like all of a sudden, plus turf just smokes your body. It really does. Like people don't think
it's hotter on the turf
think it
too.
Does. Yeah, people don't think it does, but it really does. If you're doing jumping, cutting, and all that stuff in turf versus grass, like those reps build up fast. So especially when you have guys do a ton of volume in that first part of the summer, that's good when the grass is available to us. Also, I think we use it sometimes later in the summer when guys are just feeling sore and like beat up, like when they're toward the end of their training block and they're hitting like kind of, this is like more than we even thought you were capable of. Like let's do some work on the grass, like give your body a break, because there are usually signs before you really need to take your foot off the gas with an athlete. There are signs just that you can see where they need to lower and kind of just tell. Yeah. Grass is good. I'd be curious to see the difference I think taking football guys and putting them on a track surface would be interesting.
Yeah, I don't think you can do it a ton. I think it differs on the weight of the athlete. Bigs their tendons are gonna hurt a lot more from that harder surface. Like I said, it's something I don't implement a ton. A lot of times, I think you can blame social media, a lot of the proliferation of it. I get a lot of football skill position guys who ask specifically for track work, and then I ask them why, and they say, well, I saw so-and-so do it. I think there's a time and a place for it. Like I said, I would really only try to implement it for max velo. You can do it for excel work. It's just, you're going to be punishing the tendons a little bit more. It doesn't really matter that much. They're not running track. They're football players. They're not going to test on a track surface. They're not going to compete on a track surface. Really, the only reason I typically put them on there is to get that stimulus. And then really depending on the athlete, this is on an athlete by athlete basis. Some of them I do like to get a little bit of speed endurance work in, which is, I think, a lot easier done on a track. So that's something I might occasionally put in. But, at that point, we're talking about a much smaller percentage of the population of football players that you'd be doing that with.
So this is a thought that I had, and I want to run it by the two fast guys. When starting a speed block and a speed phase, like instead of just throwing dudes on the turf and sprinting them right away, have you guys tried or experimented with starting with hill sprints, so that like just starting with like 3 or 4 weeks of just you're running hills? Because I remember a few years ago, I think when we were like, I don't even know exactly when, a few years ago, it was like the first or second week back, and we were running like fly 10s, and it was like hammy, and I'm like, okay, I'm thinking about that. Okay, they haven't sprinted in a really long time. They haven't sprinted. They did spring ball, and then spring ball ended, and they were drinking and studying for finals, and that was it.
Yeah, the postseason friggin' booze, lack of taking care of your body. College life. Yeah. Well, yes, 100%. Like that's why we have the incline treadmill in the gym. So then if we know somebody is getting ready to start sprinting, load up some resistance, or the hill outside just on the pavement, because when you run on that incline, you're not getting the hamstring in the elongated position. So it's very, very rare that you would suffer any kind of something doing a hill sprint. It shortens up everything and kind of just makes you work into that forward lean drive phase more. And it strengthens. It's a really safe way to progress into sprint work. I think that everyone should start with hill sprints, like always. I think that's something, I wish we had a better set of stairs to use, because I know that in periods of my time, my pops, who has his own thoughts about things, is always like, gotta run stairs. Like, okay, sure. But it actually is a good thing. I wish we could have a staircase with more stairs, because I think running stairs as a kind of semi-plyometric way, and then running hills is a really good way to prep yourself for a speed block. So yeah, hills are sick. coach.
Yeah, hills are
You
great.
knew that, but I mean, you
I
programmed
knew that. I just wanted to talk,
it's a good
ask the
talking
fast
point.
guys. Like,
Yeah.
do you start your track guys like on hills and stuff like before
Yeah,
you get
yeah.
into, hey, little Jimmy, go run 100-meter day one? Like, no, you're not doing that.
Well,
Yeah,
Jimmy
hills-
hasn't ran 50 meters in the last
Yeah.
4 months. It's been
Yeah,
playing
hills are
Fortnite.
great. In track, you might implement a little bit longer hill sessions than I think you would, once again, with field sport athletes, where you're doing a little bit more aerobic work. You might be looking at like 80-meter hills as more as a conditioning and work capacity building. As far as like actual pure hill sprints, you'd still implement that too, kind of going back to the conjugate training thing. It's good. Just like Otto said, there's not much more I can say. It's good for teaching the drive phase. It's good for acceleration. And then in athletes that aren't track athletes, that aren't accustomed to sprinting, it's definitely a way to, I think, mitigate fatigue and build up just general kind of tendon resilience to eventually moving to a flat or different surface. I am curious though. I know you guys are limited by the weather sometimes in the colder months. You mentioned the incline treadmill. Assuming you guys had access year round to hills, what surface would you prefer, and would you change up the surface as opposed to road, grass, dirt?
Nice grass hill.
We have a pavement hill that we use with train drags, but grass hill, easy, keep it simple. As long as it's not like wet and slippery or there's any issues with the hill, like grass hill. I mean, if you could get, I don't even know if a turf hill, like I think there are a few football programs.
We know a place that has an indoor turf hill, and an outdoor grass hill is just better. Even the friggin' the hill, the driveway hill at the gym that we use, I like better than that indoor turf hill. Like, it was like, I don't know, it was like indoor sneaker turf hill, and I'm like, I'd rather just friggin' run outside. Like, I don't know, like, it's cool. Yes, it makes sense if you're in New England. Sure, yeah, it makes sense, but like you said too, we have that incline treadmill that is Otto's baby that we got from Reed.
I personally love running on asphalt, but that's not something I'd program everyone for. I've built up the capacity to do that over a decade of doing it. But
we usually do it with lower intensity stuff. So if it's like hill sprints or even just some buildups, like we had the guys do some buildups on just like kind of turn it on, hit a couple strides at a fast speed, fast velocity, and then shut it down just to kind of move. It's fine. As long as you're not just crushing like full speed workouts, like completely unprepared on asphalt, it's totally fine. You're moving fast.
I actually have a question. Go ahead.
No.
Yeah. Okay. I don't want to hold you guys too much longer, but chains versus sleds. I know you guys probably prefer chains. I'd like your explanation.
That's crazy because my question was going to relate to that a little bit with chains and sled. We like chains because it's more rugged. It's sicker.
It looks cooler.
We don't even know how much our chains weigh. I think we weighed them once upon a time, but then we stopped even thinking about it. We're just like, load up the chains. But my question was, I'd be curious, and something that I'm going to work on and play around with this summer is some sled sprints in a specific load of like, I forget what the percentage of body weight that you want to drag, and then time those sprints and see if there is a sort of predictable increase from increasing a sled drag sprint to an unloaded sprint. Because it would be cool if that's the case, but there are a lot of things that allegedly work that when you put into practice don't like actually have the same effect. Like,
been playing
it could
around
be
with
more
that.
Powerful. It would be good it makes sense even if you increase a sled drag for what we do, like for bobsled, it makes sense because you're putting more power into your stride. But is that necessarily actually going to make you run faster? I don't know. We'll see. You said
I'm sure people have the data. I don't have it off the top of my head. I'm trying to actually accumulate it myself. I've been doing something like that, sleds at 10% of someone's body weight and timing it on a 10-yard acceleration, and then comparing it kind of week in, week out with their 10-yard, because obviously we're combining the two in a session. Don't have the data. Don't have a large enough data set yet to draw a conclusion. I'm sure someone does. I'm 100% sure. Whether they publish it or not, I don't know. But
I've seen people time fly 10s with chains and sleds. And use that as a metric, and I don't know. That's something we haven't messed around with yet, but I've seen people do it. So yeah, I'd be curious to see.
That's actually something I want to try this off season is trying the very lightly resisted flies. That's not something that I have much experience with, but that is actually something that I want to play around with.
Initially, I am not as curious as a loaded 10 yard or 10 meter fly. because once you're trying to get to top speed, putting resistance on it, that's not where it's most important to have that horizontal force
Right.
projection.
It would
Like,
have to be a
it makes-
marginal resistance.
Yeah, I mean,
Relatively speaking.
it could. It then kind of falls into the category of like wearing a really lightweighted vest when you do plyometric work. Like it's basically that same thing where it's like, yeah, you might get a better stimulus, like you might get a good adaptation, but by the same token, you're putting a weird strain on your body when it wouldn't necessarily like be there. I feel like dragging weight behind you when you're doing accelerations, that makes a lot of sense to me. If you can increase your power output right there in those first
Right.
10 steps of an Excel, that makes sense to me. I'd have to think about how I would do that. I know personally, I think that I would do it myself. I'll play around with it maybe, probably
Yeah.
not.
I
But
don't have definitive opinions on it. I'm
I
just
would
something I
think
want to play
that-
around with too.
like for our athletes, I probably wouldn't. I don't think that I would, Troy, like you and I would do that, only because they get so much. The guys that we deal with are not track guys. They're not running all the time. Like just having them hit that unloaded straight sprint. And another thing that Troy's been doing a lot, especially with our lineman guys, is doing curve sprints.
Yeah.
That's been huge for them, just being able to.
Are you ever
move
doing
better.
resisted curve sprints? That's somewhere where chains actually do make a difference versus a sled, because you can't do that with a sled, but you can
No.
with chains.
No. Usually just getting guys to rep out.
Chase each other. We'll have them chase each other.
Yeah.
That's we don't resist them, but we have them chase each
Right.
other, and that is something that we found. Like when people are chasing each other or getting chased, they are running faster.
Yeah.
Like they are running faster. Or like when we call it the rabbit. Like we'll have someone line up sometimes, someone in the lasers for their 10 and someone outside,
Yeah.
and like someone will take off and they're trying to chase him and catch him and they'll run faster. And it's the idea behind, hey man, like this is sprint work, but like it's football. Like pretend you're playing football. Like go freaking chase that guy. Go chase that guy. You're going to run faster.
That's the best cue that we got. I think we initially started that by first like aha moment. Yeah, it was Pascucci, where like he's really struggling with his 10-yard acceleration. Like he like just can't figure it out. We're like, no, he's not this slow. His numbers are like, ugh. And then it was just like, pretend you're on kickoff. Pretend you're tracking down a ball carrier. Like chase him. Boom. There's the aha moment. So sometimes when we see that, and I think that's just a time thing. That's just getting used to, coaching enough athletes where you just kind of recognize, all right, for whatever reason, this athlete none of these coaching cues, none of this is working, but I know that they're good at their sport. I know they're competent. I can see that they move well. Just do that, dude. Like, stop trying to overthink, like, what the specific technique is. Like, just run fast. Like, it's like, what was I saying? When we're talking about the loading, this is what I wanted to say. Loading, like, the various pieces is not getting lost in the web of complexity of training and not trying to do too many things, because if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And now, what are we really trying to improve? If everyone comes in and trains with us, we have very rare rates of any type of soft tissue injury. We'll get like a couple in a huge group of guys, and it's usually because they've neglected some part of hydration, rest, or tissue work or something. They're just or have neglected the supplemental work, not doing the little things like, wow, you've progressed on these other movements, but this movement you've been slapdicking around. You're not moving, you're not improving it. So yeah, that's not getting any stronger. And it's weird that that's what's bugging you right now. Like, big surprise. It's not coming up with everything. But like, when guys can already make progress, and then as a coach, you're really ambitious. You want to find these new ways to be even better. Like, I got to make more progress, even better progress. Well, that doesn't mean you should change with what already works. Like, that means maybe find ways to complement it and enhance it, but definitely don't like switch things up. Like, I don't foresee us ever getting rid of 10-yard accelerations and sled pushes. We can try different things out. We can throw different things in a block with, maybe we're playing around more with like dragging the load with accelerations. Maybe we look at another piece of training where we add a little bit more technique work in, or find some places to improve it. But yes, I think that's almost a danger sometimes with coaches and training, is overcomplicating it, trying to chase this like it's what we always say. It's good. It's keep it simple. Like, it does not have to be this really crazy elaborate training thing, but it's what some people, and especially athletes, feel like to be at this super awesome level, they need to have some sort of crazy proprietary, like ultimate coaching and training. And it's like, no, just get a little bit better each time you do it and keep doing it forever and make it a priority always. And eventually get good at it. It applies to most things, right, Coach?
Yeah,
It applies to almost everything.
It does. It does. Like
especially with coaching, people need to justify like we're in sweatpants in a gym with rusty weights and dudes sprinting and lifting, and then you need to justify why that works with like hyper, academic language and like, science. It's just like, what are you doing? Leave it up to the people developing like, big boy real science. Like, this is just get stronger, keep doing it. Like,
yeah. And if you look at like who we like for our summer, for like our college guys and our summer group in general, if you look at the schedule and the time they have for us, at most, like someone's going to get 11 Saturday field sessions in with us, like at the most. Okay, then we go Wednesday, Saturday. Now they're getting 22 field sessions in. Okay, well the first like few weeks are just getting them to run again and like getting them moving again. So then it comes down to, and that's like the high end, like 11 or 12. So assume most people have less than that. So now we have like 5 or 6 weeks to work top speed and get you faster. Okay, we're not going to start implementing, wasting weeks on, okay, well, if we load this much here with the top end, no, we're just going to run and we're going to sprint and we're going to chase each other, because that is, we're not going to experiment too much with these various things. We don't have that much time. It goes back to our original question of the day. Like, how do we do it in a short amount of time? Okay, well, we got 40 college kids and they're going to be home for 8 weeks, and the first 3 of those weeks we just need to get them running again, and then the last 2 of those weeks we're going to condition the shit out of them before they go back. Okay, now we got 5 weeks to work top speed. That's it.
Yeah, conditioning block is by far the most fun, because all it is just work, numbers, and just verbally berating guys to make sure they don't stop working. And then they're 2-3 weeks, you're ready for anything. Because that shit is getting in shape.
Getting in shape.
I guess not for everyone, but getting in shape from a training standpoint, from an athlete standpoint, is the most basic. So for anyone who's listening, we'll wrap it up here, because that's a really solid 52 minutes. I thought we were way more concise, way better. Great job, GPP.
Great timing.
But for anyone listening, if you're not in shape, dude, you're not a dog. You're not about it. Like, it's okay to get caught a few times, like slipping, and like you're tired. Like, man, I was out of shape. Like, that caught me. I fucked up. Everybody has those days. There's always oversight. But if you're chronically out of shape and you fear conditioning and like work tests,
and you try and back out of conditioning, you try and quit conditioning.
Not even. I mean, if you're on a team, you don't have the option to back out. But I'm just saying, if you are a guy that loathes and fears work tests, which is just like, repeat 400s or 300-yard shuttles or any type of just like volume work that is meant to just exhaust you. If you're someone that doesn't like that or fears that, get your priorities in order, because that is the easiest thing. You need no athletic advantage to do that. No, you need no athletic advantage. You don't need to be a freak athlete. You don't need to be super fast. You don't need to be super strong. You don't need to be super springy. You don't need any as long as you can move fine. You don't even need to move fine, really. You could have the worst running form ever. Like, work capacity and cardio and those work tests that you will inevitably have to do in any sport, no matter what you do, where it's just shut your brain off and clock that work in. If you're not a naturally freak athlete, like, that's your bread and butter, like your work tests. Yeah. So if you're someone who fears those conditioning work tests, like, you got to get good, man. You got to get your shit together, because that is the easiest, most basic thing to improve for an athlete. And I think that is overlooked a lot, because it's so easy that I don't know if coaches feel like they don't need to put the time in to coach it, or if they don't want to, or they have no idea like how to do it. Because
I think they forget about it.
Yeah, specialized coaches.
Or they didn't experience it. But
some specialized coaches will be out of the, like, some guys will be out of the game so long, like, they haven't had to do that. And even though you're supposed to, like, I still train hard as shit. It's like, yeah, but you don't have someone telling you you have to do this, screaming at you, keeping up with all of the other guys, all your peers, where it's like, you better do this or you're going to drown. So there's a bit of advice. If you're out of shape or if you fear work tests, even if you think they're stupid and they don't make sense, crush those shits. Like, crush those shits. That was one of my favorite parts about training, because there was no metric that you were tested at. It's like, I'm just going to rep this out. Like set. Troy, you know it. Those freshman intro football lifts. Like, let's go.
I'm just gonna. There's no metric. It's just like, I'm just gonna be first. I'm just gonna win this. It's like, if I can just come in first and win this, and then I know, okay, I worked way harder than everyone else. Like, I just dominated that shit. Like, there is no metric for that, but I fucking won that shit. I beat everyone on the conditioning test. Like, in high school running 8.421s. I'm gonna win the lap.
Yeah, you didn't beat me.
Senior year, I won the last 2 laps, and Selena was like, "Oh, go! All right, we're getting off track."
Because I wasn't there. Keep reliving the glory days. It's fine. Yeah, I mean, that's why we do gassers and shit. It's like a derivative of Bronco for rugby. Like, that shit is hard as shit and horrible, but better be able to do that. Like, you better be able to nut up. I don't know. I'm spending a lot of time on this because I think it's really important, and it's good that it came up because I think it is so overlooked. It is so overlooked. You could be so fast and jump so high and be so skilled. You see it all the time, unless you're friggin' Randy Moss or some freak guy that's going to be able to succeed no matter what. Like, wearing jeans, you're in the 99th percentile. Like,
other than that, you're doomed.
If you're not that,
you're wearing jeans.
Yeah, right. But if you're not that, like, there's no excuse for not absolutely crushing those, like, work tests.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
like,
pure grip.
There's no excuse for getting fatigued on a field. Like, that's like the easiest thing to control as an athlete. Are guys that we get in the gym where it's like, oh yeah, hit a really good 10-yard Excel, or hit this on squat, or hit this on bench, or, you know, I'm really good. But then it comes to conditioning and work tests. It's like, dude, embarrassing, pathetic, embarrassing, because you get guys that are like, in a much lower percentile physically and athletically that can crush that shit, and it's just like, it's kind of where you get exposed, I think.
Yeah, I mean, even from a track and field perspective, walking on to 2 Division I programs, always wanted, first 8 to 12 weeks, just pure conditioning, pure grit, always wanted to beat people faster than me, always wanted to beat the people, the incoming class that are on scholarship. Can say that I've seen people too that had, as I became an upperclassman, that came in as freshman walk-ons in something that's purely metric driven as track and field. They lasted a lot. Some of them even made the roster. They lasted a long time just because they bought themselves time. They spent 8 weeks coming in first place on every single type of conditioning, and they bought themselves time. They bought themselves, all the way into, each program I was in, we had an intra squad in January, which would be like, I guess, a track and field equivalent of like a spring game. You know what I mean? Just a meet between the team itself. That's usually, when rosters were finalized. A lot of people made it to that far and beyond purely off of the fact that they just grinded it out. Their metrics weren't great. They were good enough. They just won every conditioning thing. They bought themselves time.
So yeah, buy yourself time, work hard, trust the regressions, chip away at it, work on your supplemental work. There are no little things. Get after it.
Where can listeners find good performance programs?
Good performance programs.
Our website,
you can find them on our website, in our Instagram bios, on our website.
We prefer if you just reached out to us, though.
Yeah, just message us.
Hit us up.
I thought this was a great conversation. I want to end it.
I also want to say, it's like we're getting better each time we do it. Crazy how that works.
It's like crazy.